Well, I'm here with Stephen Asher, the writer and director of Looking Forward. This is very strange. It's like it was described as a video essay. Definitely feels that. The images are not all, but most of the images are AI generated, which
Mhm.
adds a really surreal. Because so the way you have the short, it seems like a stream of consciousness or a stream of thought, and then
Mhm.
with the AI images, it adds a really surreal kind of feel to it. Where did the whole concept of this come from?
Well, the project kind of got its start. I discovered this amazing book called The Third Reich of Dreams, which was written by a researcher in Germany in 1933. She was having, Charlotte Barrett was having nightmares about Hitler's rise to power, and she thought it would be interesting to interview other people about their dreams during this time. And it was an incredibly powerful book. And people were kind of processing what Hitler meant even before the worst had happened, subconsciously in their dreams. So I started trying to get the rights to the book and experimenting with AI imagery as a way to kind of capture dreamlike analogs to what was going on. And AI is this incredible tool where you can type in text prompts and then get images. And at the time that I was doing it, the algorithm was more primitive than it is now. And so what was coming out were these images that had errors in them that were actually fascinating and very expressionistic. Faces are not carefully rendered. Sometimes you would get, bizarre errors like three arms, but other times you'd get these just really fascinating things like I asked for two men wearing fedoras in a room in 1930 talking on a phone because that was one of the dreams. And it rendered, and in the afternoon light, which you can also specify the quality of the image. And it rendered this amazing shot of these two guys in fedoras, almost a Hopper-like painting. And one of them was talking on an iPhone because that's what the AI thought a phone looked like. So I saw a lot of potential in this tool. And as it turned out, I couldn't get rights to that book. But I then pivoted because I was thinking about how resonant, the reason the Hitler theme had been so resonant is so much about what was going on in our own country, about how institutions were being, you know, undermined and, democratic principles were being undermined in plain sight, and people were acting like it was no big deal, or a lot of people were. So I started to think about the kinds of threats that we're all under and the ones that we pay attention to and the ones that we ignore. Like everyone else, we had all gone through the pandemic and the lockdown and isolation and, both feeling fearful about the future and cut off from the rest of society and kind of wondering what the future meant. And, I'd always thought of myself as an optimist, but I was beginning to wonder if that was right and if I still did, or if that was actually a useful way to think about what was going on in the world. So I ended up making a much more personal film about my own thoughts about, both the future and history and how do we deal with all the things that threaten us in our lives or seem dangerous, and how do we put them in perspective?
I mean, this is definitely a pessimistic thought, but when humans have often not worked in our own best interest, so you wonder like if we're heading towards danger, towards our own self-destruction, and then we continue. You mentioned the boiling the frog sort of thing. Maybe our species deserves to be self-eradicated.
Right. Well, everyone always uses that cliche of, frogs in boiling water, that they will stay until they die, which I think is funny because I think if you put a frog in water at all, it will probably hop out anyway.
Yeah.
But, just that sense that we don't see what's really going on. And, there are a lot of things that have been going on and continue to go on that are very dangerous. And people, they want to go about their lives, or they don't really think about that. On the other hand, part of the message of the film as you go through it is that's not a way you can live, being in constant fear and vigilance. And so there has to be another way to kind of integrate this into your life. And I don't want to, kind of give away the arc of the film too much, but it's not a film without hope or without a sense of how to package some of those threats and fears into something that makes sense within a person's life.
I mean, you said that you don't want to give away the arc of the film. I would argue that this is impossible to give away because it's such a stream of consciousness. It's like I'd watch this twice and then just kind of put it on my phone and listen to it because you got such a soothing voice. I could probably listen to you do ASMR, but like just kind of listening to it over and over again. You kind
Yeah,
of pick up on little because it's in this short amount of time, it's so dense and you
yeah,
pose so many questions. Like
yes.
what's the writing process of this like? Like is it stream of consciousness? Like you just wrote it down and it's like, yep, that probably gotta change these couple words, but otherwise it's good, or did it
Yeah,
take a while to kind of
right. It's interesting. I mean, one of the things I'm really loving in the people that have seen the film, almost everybody says, I had to watch it twice or more than twice, or I keep coming back to it. And that's incredibly wonderful. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in the film. And so the process was, thinking about different, it's broken into chapters and thinking about the different chapters. An important chapter also is my own family's history. My grandfather was born in Ukraine, and they had to escape pogroms that because Jews were being killed, and fortunately my family got out alive. Everybody else in this town died either in the pogrom or in the Holocaust. So my family story was another one of those chapters, and I would write things and narrate them and create imagery to support that. And I worked on it for I don't know, 4 months or so, pretty much in isolation, not sure if it was a film or not, and kind of feeling like maybe it wouldn't make sense to other people. And then I brought it to my wife Jeannie, who's also my film partner, and said, do you think this is a thing? Do you think does this make sense or scan? And it really did, and she found it very moving and deep. And that was an incredible encouragement to me to keep going and refining. So it isn't stream of consciousness in the sense that it all came out at the same time. It's lots of iterations and hearing showing it to a few trusted friends and seeing what made sense or what didn't. Another thing that's been really interesting to me is that these images are meant to be very, I use the word expressionistic, but full of stimulating you in different ways. And some people find them really disturbing. Some people find them really fascinating, sometimes in combination. So kind of working with those and creating new images, because if anybody has ever tried using AI, generative AI, it's a very back and forth iterative process. You put in a prompt, you tell it you want it to look like a certain way, you get an image, and then you say, okay, don't do this, change the date, change what they're wearing, change their position, and you go back and forth. So it often takes many, many iterations to get the image that you like.
yeah. Also at the beginning of this, you asked the AI a question about the future and then it answers it, and then that seems to be the kind of where the short goes.
Yeah.
Is there a version of this where the AI just says there's flying unicorns and everything's made out of peanut butter? It's like, oh, this is going to be a very strange short. Or
Right. Well, I was already thinking about those very issues. So when I asked the AI, what are the things we had to worry about, and it came back with exactly the things I was thinking about, I knew I was onto something. And it not only came back with the threats of climate change and threats to democracy and technology, including AI, and then I love that it decided to finish off its list of threats, which was even longer than that, and then it said, "But stay optimistic," as advice to me, like yes, it looks like the world is going to hell, but don't worry about it too much.
you'll be dead. You won't be alive.
Right, exactly.
Um, do you have like any ambitions to, because like I think the concept of this is really neat, of just using the way you use AI, asking AI a question and then just kind of leaning into that and just
Yeah.
going like, I could see this as like a YouTube series. Like there's a Melody Sheep. They have these great CGI images, and they're mostly like asking questions about the universe and using that. Like I could
Uh-huh.
see like a YouTube sort of
Yeah.
thing like this just going forward.
Interesting. I mean, there certainly are ways to expand it. I think one of the things that works in this film is it's short, it's densely packed, and I kind of also thought about the narration, not so much as straight ahead narration, as almost as kind of prose poetry or song lyrics, that it's very distilled and kind of suggestive, and it leaves it to the viewer to see how it works in their lives. And people have really responded strongly that it resonates for how they're feeling about their own life. Um, so yes, it could go further. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about the AI image generation algorithm is it's gotten better in the sense that it's more realistic. So the images are now they're not as kind of fun and interesting. And there's also this concept of the uncanny valley where when things get pretty realistic but just not quite right, that they just make you uncomfortable. And the more recent stuff I've tried with the newer algorithms, it just it looks more like real people, but it's also not. It's not. It's like a kind of flat animation. Not interesting.
The hands are usually a dead giveaway too, because they usually look like,
Right. Wrong number of fingers. And, yeah.
yeah, that's it. Someone did like an AI thing of a woman going crazy over pumpkin spice.
Uh-huh.
It was just like a murder of pumpkins. It was insane to look at. But yeah, like
Yeah.
the images looked damn near real, but like the faces were like a little hyper
Yeah.
expressionistic and hands were
Right.
messed up.
So like the image that you have as your background right now, like if you just move your head over just a little bit, you can see this guy. So, I asked for a guy sitting in a window with giant windows looking out, and it made this incredibly beautiful, almost sculptural guy there. It kind of reminds me, there was an illustrator, Folon, who used to do a lot of New Yorker covers, and just really beautiful, beautiful imagery, beautiful art. It's harder to get that stuff now.
Yeah, it's everyone this. I ask you the same. We have a what's in the box segment where we put in lesser seen movies that you think deserve more eyeballs on them. But also, I want to get like a feature length. But since you're working in shorts, maybe you put a short in there as well.
Oh, a lesser. So there's a absolutely. So we do all sorts of feature documentaries and dramas and stuff. A short that I absolutely love is a film called Undressing My Mother, which I believe is now available on Vimeo. Ken Wardrop did it, and it's a film with his mother that is just incredibly sensitive and lyrical, and you would think couldn't be done because it's partly about his mom taking a bath without her clothes on, but it's a really lovely film.
And this was playing at Doc in
Yes,
NYC.
it is at Doc NYC. It premieres on Thursday, and it will be available online. And if you go to our website, which is, oh, actually, you can just go to lookingforwardfilm.com, and that will take you to links to where you can watch it online. And as we go forward, it will be available in other platforms, and that's where you'll be able to find it.
Yeah,
Lookingforwardfilm.com.
yeah, I'm really curious to, and also with shorts, they're easy to recommend because it's like it's 12 minutes, just check it out. But I'm really
Right.
curious to see what other people think of this, because it's very interesting concept. And I, I, I need to find time to smoke a bunch of weed and watch this, because I think I'm
Right.
gonna get something
Well,
completely
well,
different out of it.
one thing that has been great is when we send it to people, and almost always they come back with, "Can I send it to some other people?" So it's taking on its own kind of virality. People want to share it with other people and talk about it with them and see how they feel about it. So that's been really really lovely.
Yeah. Well, that it was a really great short. Definitely got me thinking. And thank you, C, for joining me today.
All right,
And
thank you.
look forward to seeing what else you have and check that out in the future as well.
Terrific.